Hi there, and welcome back. Welcome back to my channel. That wasn't a sigh of boredom, that was a sigh of it's fucking freezing. Um, if you're new here, my name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I run my mouth and prattle about me favorite movies, mostly horror, and me favorite music, mostly metal. And yes, so I just did Bad Ronald, and right after that, I watched Rainn Wilson's new movie, which I really loved, and I knew that I would when I saw the synopsis and I watched the trailers and stuff like that. So we're gonna get into that. Don't tell a soul. Yes. I love having to navigate the glare. So don't tell us all. Did you see how I maneuvered around that mic? I'm getting good at this shit. But Don't Tell a Soul was released in 2020. It stars Jack Dylan Grazer as Joey and Fionn Whitehead as Matt and Rainn Wilson, who I loved in 2015's The Boy. He was so fucking good in that movie. And that's the reason why I ran out and bought this as soon as it was released on Blu-ray. Uh, so it's been here a while, but yeah. So it was directed by Alex McAulay and written by Alex McAulay, and I just told you who it starred. So yeah, we are going to get into that. All right. So don't tell us. Don't tell a story. Yeah, I'm gonna tell a story. So let's get on with story time. Don't Tell a Soul is a story about two brothers, Matt and Joey. Matt is this older 17-year-old asshole who actually looks about 30 and acts about 3. And his 14 and 9 months, because he makes a special statement. I'm not 15. I will be 15 in 3 months. So, so you have this 14-year-old little brother named Joey, and you have this older 17-year-old brother named Matt. And the movie opens with them. At first, I couldn't understand what the fuck they were doing. They were, uh, he comes in. Matt comes in Joey's room. Is like, put your shoes on. We're going right now. The game is on. So you're like, okay. So they go running down the street and they go through the woods and they come to this place and it's weird. You see this big giant house and it's like covered in a house-shaped tent, and you're like, what is that? I've never seen that. What is that? Some kind of like, is that like a jumpy, like at the carnival, like what is that? The bouncy house? I just didn't know what that was. We all have our gaps. And I figured out what it was later, though. Basically, the house is being fumigated, and so they will like they will like put a jacket over an entire house and fumigate it. I didn't know that. Okay, we learn something new all the time. But one of Matt's criminal asshole friends, because he's kind of like a criminal asshole type, had told him that this old lady who owns this house and is gone because she's having it fumigated had like more than $10,000 hidden in a bedroom upstairs. I don't know how the criminal that he knew that, but he did. And so he got Joey a gas mask at the Army surplus store and made him wear it into the house to go upstairs, look through the drawers, and steal this money. Now, you didn't really know what was going on, but actually that's true. The boy, when Joey got up there and got in there, there was this big tin, and inside the tin was just wads of money. And so he comes back out. This is like 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something. So he comes back out, and they take off. And when they get home, or well, I'm sorry, so they take off on their way home, and all of a sudden, a security guard like walks out from between one of the houses at the edge of the forest, and they look at each other, and then they start running, and the security guard starts running after them, and so they're running through the wood. Joey drops the gas mask. The security guard picks it up, I guess, and he's running after them, and all of a sudden the security guard just disappears. He's just like, "Ooh," and goes down a hole. He like literally goes down a hole, and you're like, "Oh shit." So it was like a sewer pipe or a well or something like that, but boom, he was gone. So the the brother gets up to Matt, who's hiding behind a tree, and he's like, "Oh, did we lose him?" And he's like, "No, he fell in a hole back there, like a literal hole." So Matt is like, "Oh, I don't care. We've got to go." And he said, "Well, we got to go help him." So Joey is the nice one, and Matt is the asshole. So they go back to the house, and Matt refuses to let Joey go back. So they go back to the house where Joey goes in, and Matt goes in and starts counting the money and stuff like that. And this is where we kind of learn their mother. We're learning about them. So we learned that they live alone with their sick mother. Um, you don't really know what she's got, but she's obviously very sickly. And Matt is kind of claiming that that's what this money was for, because they said at the beginning, we're doing this for mom. So now you kind of know why. She's obviously got some kind of illness. So sounds admirable, but it's not. So um, Joey ends up going back to the hole. When Matt's not looking, he goes back to the hole, and he starts talking to the man, but he doesn't let him see. And he's like, "Are you okay?" So the guy turns out to be alive down there, and says that his name is Dave Hambley. So he's alive, and he's talking to him, and Joey goes back and ends up telling Matt that the guy is alive and that he wants to help him. And Matt, you really start seeing at this point how sick and evil Matt is, because Matt is just like pushing him and punching him. He like punches him upside the face so hard it almost knocks him out. But fine, he gets Matt to go back out there, and that's when the guy realizes, you know, I hear you talking to someone up there. Who are you talking to? And he figures out that you are the two boys that I was chasing. And they admit it, or Joey admits it. Matt's, of course, like really pissed off. Joey admits it and starts, it's like, who are you? And so he starts trying to talk them into helping. And he realizes really quick that Matt is not a nice guy, because Matt is trying to drag Joey away, and Joey's wanting to help him. So Matt goes over there to the hole and pisses on Rainn Wilson's head. Just pees on him. And they go back home, leaving this man covered in piss. They go back home, and Matt has just got Joey so terrified, because Joey wants to call the police, or he wants to do that. And you can imagine what Joey is telling him. I mean, what Matt is telling Joey. He saw us. He's going to report us. We're going to go to prison for burglarizing that house. So, you can see where Joey's situation is here. So Joey ends up going back by himself again against Matt's orders and continues to go back and talk to Rainn Wilson, Dave, in the hole. He takes him like he takes some of his mom's pain medicine because he thinks he's broke his ankle. So he takes him some of his pain medicine, mom's pain medicine. He takes him a bologna sandwich. He takes him a sleeping bag. But the guy's like, "Can't you just like let me out of the hole? Why are you keeping me here? I swear I won't tell." So you're kind of thinking at this point of the movie that you know, you're not really sure who's being good and who's being bad, and you're not really sure exactly what you think about what should be done because, I mean, they are correct. Um, he could tell on them, but you also have a guy that could be very hurt and is dying in a hole. I mean, what are you going to do? Couldn't you just like anonymously tell someone? But still, you'd be getting yourself in trouble, right? Because he can get out and tell, especially now that he knows your names and stuff and knows who you are and knows what you look like. So Joey even takes him. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Um, he keeps going back for these talks and gives him a walkie-talkie. And he lets him know though that he's tech savvy, and he's like, that walkie-talkie is locked on one frequency, mine. So you're not going to be able to roam and find someone else to talk to. So it's weird. You're kind of like, okay, because Joey goes back home. He's sitting in his bedroom and he's talking to this guy that he's got trapped in a hole out in the woods. It's a little bit funny because you're like, and he's like, oh cool, this is like me and my dad when we went camping, and you're like, okay, the seriousness of the nature doesn't seem to like be coming across to Joey, or you know, so you're not really sure. But I will say that I started I started feeling something weird about Dave, the guy in the hole. I just had this feeling because I write my notes as I watch the movie. Anything that I catch, and I wrote gives him a walkie-talkie to remind me of that. And then I wrote, I feel something weird about Hambly. My my movie spider senses was like, I feel something weird about Hamley. That's Dave Hamley, the guy in the hole. So I'm like, okay. So we got Matt threatening Joey again. Stop going out there. Stop talking to him. Um, and it's almost like him and this guy in the hole are developing some kind of relationship. And as a matter of fact, Matt even accuses them of that. It's like, what, have you got a crush on this guy or something? I mean, what's up with you? It's like you're obsessed with him. And then I wrote, Matt's an asshole. He is. So Joey keeps going back anyway. Um, and Matt keeps getting more and more angry about it, threatening him about it. And he's really abusive. He's like a really abusive guy to his little brother. Um, I think I write something later about that. Yeah, here in a few minutes. But so he tells Joey to come with him. That they have something else to do. That he'll go back out there to the hole to talk to this guy with him. But first he has an errand that they have to do. So he takes Joey back to that house that they robbed, and it's still in the tent. And Joey's like, what are we doing here? We're going to get caught. What are you doing? And he goes in. Matt, this time, goes in. And he comes back out, and at first I'm like, why has he got an oxygen tank? Because, I mean, my mind thought, old lady. They said it was an old lady that lived there. They stole it. Why did he steal one of her oxygen tanks? And you might be ahead of me now because you might know what it was. But I was like, what's he going to do with an oxygen tank? So he goes like running through the woods, and Joey's like, "No, I'm not gonna let you." And and he's like, You're not gonna kill him. How's he gonna kill him with an oxygen tank? What? Throw it down there and like blow him up or something? I didn't know. I didn't get it. Okay. at that moment. But then, like as they got closer to the hole, he like turns it on, and it was like this smoky yellow stuff. And I'm like, oh wait a second, the house is being fumigated, right? So that's the poison shit. Okay, I get it. So Joey jumps his back, and they actually start fighting because he's trying to throw this poison gas down there in the hole with Dave to kill him. And once again, Matt really abuses Joey and beats him up and gets the tank and throws it down there. And there you go. The whole like hole is just bubbling this poison. It's like mustard gas, you know. Of course, it wasn't, but you know, it looked like a mustard gas from like World War I or something, bubbling up out of that hole. So now Joey thinks that his brother is not only a sick asshole murderer, but he's a murderer too. You know, not just a sick asshole, but now a sick asshole murderer. So, and that's where I wrote, I'd kill Matt in his sleep. Yeah, that's how abusive he was, and I just like really hated him as a character. I was ready to kill him by this point. So, Joey goes into the bedroom and tries to get Dave on the walkie-talkie, but gets no response, and he starts crying. And you know, as you would think. So the next morning, they have another big fight. I mean, this Matt guy, I really wanted to strangle him to death. But so they have another fight, and he's like, "I'm going to a party tonight." And Joey's like, "I don't want to ever go with you anywhere again." And then he pours orange juice on Joey, and Joey's like, "You know what? In that case, I will come to the party because you don't want me to." So he ends up going to that party that night that Joey had went to, and when he gets there, he finds out that this party was not just a party that Matt was going to, but this party was created and funded by Matt. So he realizes that the dope and the room and the liquor and all of that stuff had been bought by Matt with the $12,000. They stole $12,000 from that woman's house, supposedly for the mom's health benefits. Um, Now Joey learns that his brother is spending the money for drugs and partying and stuff. So he actually like walks in there and accuses him of it in front of everybody. It's like, what are you doing? And at that point, Matt like stops everything, tells him to turn off the music, and then starts telling everybody that his little brother is a thief who stole from old ladies and stuff like that. And you're like, man, see, I told you you should have killed that bitch in his sleep earlier. But so Joey doesn't really know what else to do except to turn around and go, well, my brother's a murderer. He murdered a man in the woods, and I watched him. And you're like going, okay, these two like are really okay. Well, that cat's out of the bag, but not really, because you're at a drunk teen party, so everybody is just laughing, and like, well, I think the perfect way to sum it up would be one of the drunk teens on one of the couches, when Joey was like, he poisoned him with gas in a hole in the forest. The guy farted and said, "Now that's poison gas for you." And I'm like, I say nobody's going to believe anything that's going on here. It's like you're confessing in front of a bunch of monkeys. It's not going to matter. But it did matter to Matt because he chased Joey out into the parking lot and beat the hell out of him again. And I'm like, you know, obviously the director did not want any sympathy for Matt whatsoever, because you have none, okay? You just want him dead. So he beats him up after that, and once after he knows that his brother is a scumbag, but he's known that for a while. He's just become more of a scumbag since his father died. So you're learning about this too. His father died, and then in one of the conversations, I think it was that his father was shot. He had gotten drunk and had gotten shot because he messed with the wrong person, is the way he had put it. So that will come in later. So that is a psycho I wrote. Yeah. So he goes home and kind of acts a little bitchy towards his mom when he first walks in, and because of what just happened to him. And she's like, "Hey, I wasn't asking for anything. I just wanted you to sit with me for a second." So he felt a little bad, and he started walking over the TV. And she reached up and she was turning it off, and you saw a news report, and the news report said, "Manhunt for murder suspect continues." And I was like, so I had to pause it, right, and I like back framed it to look at what did it say, and it said manhunt for murder suspect continues, and I'm like, okay, that could mean two things. Either they found the dead security guard, right, or my feeling earlier about feeling something weird, which I have proof on paper. You see? We'll have to see. So he sits down and is talking to his mom, and the mom ends up telling the boy, you know, Joey, well, I was just, wanting to talk to you, and, are you all right? Is everything going okay? And they have this little banter for a second when suddenly the boy notices that where she had turned the news report down, he notices it again, and she says, "Oh yeah, it's so terrible," because she turned it back up, and she said that's been on all day. A man shot his wife and kids, and there's like a 5-state manhunt looking for him, and his name is Randy Michael Sadler, and as the boy is watching, they show this big mugshot of Dave, the guy in the hole. And I was like, I knew it. I've got a piece of paper that says there's something weird about this guy. Because in one of their conversations, he had said something about, he had asked him, did he have a wife and kid? And he said that he used to. And yeah, it all comes together now. And so I felt kind of cool, and I patted myself on the back for that, catching, that weird vibe off of him in that thing. So Joey has now heard and seen the picture that this guy murdered his wife and 2 children, 10 and 8. So not like grown-up kids either. I'm talking babies. So he's like in total shock, and he doesn't know what to do. Would you? So he goes into the bedroom, and I'll be damned if he doesn't hear Dave saying, "Joey, Joey, are you there?" on the walkie-talkie. He's still alive. So he gets on the walkie-talkie with Dave, or Randy now, because you're going to see me transition from Dave to Randy because that's his real name. So he gets on the walkie with Dave, and he's like, "Are you alive?" Oh my goodness. And then I was like, is he going to tell him or not? And he does. He like confronts him. He's like, "I know who you really are." And that's when Randy, formerly Dave, when Randy says, "Okay, come and see me in the morning." Because like right before the boy told him that he knew, he was like, "It's time to end this shit. You need to come help me get out of here." And that's when Joey was like, "I know who you really are." And he was like, "Oh, okay. Well, come see me in the morning." And I was like, this is going to be good. Yeah. What's this conversation going to be like? So, you know, He tells him to come sit in the morning. He goes, he sits down by the hole, and he's like, starts asking him the inevitable questions. First of all, how are you alive? And that's when he held up the gas mask and said, "You dropped this when you were, when I was running, and so I put it on, and he threw that down here." So you're like, okay, all right, good explanation. So he was like, "Well, I can turn you in. Why shouldn't I call the police now and turn you in?" He's like, "Yeah, well, I'll turn you in for what y'all did too. But then again, yeah, but you're a murderer who murdered his wife and children with a five-state manhunt. We're just a couple of teenagers who broke into a house. I don't think they're going to balance that too well against each other." So that was that would be a pretty empty threat, in my opinion. So he's like, ask him why did he do that, and the guy was like, you know, things just happen. So he didn't really want to tell him. So he was like, okay, I'll make you a deal. And I'm like, uh oh. So he is talking to a murderer who murdered his wife and children and has developed this relationship with him. And so he asked him, I'll get you out if you'll promise to come home to my house and punish Matt. And I'm like, okay, well, I was suggesting a while ago that you kill that fucker in his sleep. I'm glad you listened to me. That's kind of what I thought about it. I'm like, this movie has been really interesting. First, I thought something was weird about Dave. It turned out to be true. I kept telling you you really should kill Matt, in my opinion. And now you're saying, okay, I'll get you out. I'll make you a deal. You come home and like hurt my brother, and I'll help you get out. Of course, I'm not really sure I would trust a murderer. Say this, it's very tense. So he agrees. Of course he would, right? So he goes back to the house to get the rope and stuff, and finds Matt just losing his mind. He is tearing up everything in the house. He's hitting his mom. He's doing all that, which just makes you go, yeah, definitely get the guy out. Let him come kill this fucker. Um, so he finds Matt raging, and Joey goes and he calms him down. What had happened was the mother had found some of her pain pills gone, remember? Because he was taking them out and giving them to Randy for his, what he thought to be a broke ankle or sprained ankle or something. So, uh, that is what I guess she had accused Matt of, and he was destroying the house and going to hurt her for daring it. But I mean, he was an asshole. He was going to expect him anyway. I would suspect him anyway. So, it's not like she was wrong as far as who would have done it. But Joey admits that he's the one who had done it, but he didn't tell her why. And that calmed her down, which calmed Matt down, which everything chilled out. So he goes and gets the rope, and he goes out there into the forest, and he helps, he throws it down there, and he helps the guy up, Randy up. Now, of course, I'm leaving out all the banter between them, which is like you have to see it. It's like really wonderful dialogue between them. Because you'll need to hear that to understand how some of this stuff is happening. But so Randy climbs out, and then I guess the director wanted to throw you for a little loop again, because you're a very the last half of this movie is very tense. That's what I liked about it. You're very tense. You don't know. You see these decisions. You don't know really if you agree or disagree with that decision. So you feel this tension, and I felt a lot of tension. And when he got out, I'm like, okay, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna kill him? They're acting so friendly. what's going to happen? I don't know. And sure enough, when he gets out, Randy turns to him and says, hey, thanks, but, and I'm really sorry about this. And I'm like, oh, shit. And Joey's like, sorry about what? And he pulls out a gun. And the guy's got, and Joey's like, you had that gun the whole time? And he's like, yeah, but it didn't do me no good in the hole. But I'm not in the hole anymore now. So you're like, oh, shit. So you're wondering, is he going to shoot or not? And then Joey is like, are you going to shoot me or not? I don't think you're going to shoot me. Are you going to shoot me? And then Randy's like, I mean, he really looks like he's supposed to shoot him. And all of a sudden he goes, nah, never mind. No, I'm not going to shoot you. And as a matter of fact, he gave the gun to Joey. So Joey takes the gun, and he won't, he's like playing with it and play shooting it, and then the guy's like, hey, it's loaded and the safety is off. You could kill someone right now if you wanted to. As in, whatever. So Joey's like, I want to know why you did what you did. What were you going to say when I asked you why you did what you did? Um, and he's like, no. And then that's when Joey, he now gets all serious and points the gun at him and is like, I'm not playing. I want you to finish what you were saying. I want to know what you were going to say. And so Randy tells him that he couldn't explain, that all he could explain was that he wished that you could go back in time and change things, something that you've done. But he still wouldn't explain why he murdered his wife and kids. So Joey ends up giving the gun back to him and takes him to the house. So Joey walks into his house with his sick mom on the couch. Now we get to see the house that they had broke into at the beginning of the movie. It's been undressed. The tent is gone, and the cops are out there because there's the broken window. Obviously, the house has been broken into, and we see Matt walking up to the cops. And you're like, what is this scumbag doing now? And he walks up to the cops and he's like, hey, I know something about this house. And the cop's like, yeah, what, about the broken window? He said, yeah, I know about the broken window. He said, I know the kid who broke in and stole the money, and he's my brother Joey, and he lives at my house. I can take you to him. You're like, damn, man, what a scumbag, yeah? I mean, why don't they listen to me? Because I told them they should have killed that fucker. 10 minutes into this movie, that Matt should have been dead. So, I was kind of a little ill about that anyway. Because I really wanted him dead. But, so now you have the cop. The cops have him in the truck. There's a cop and a lady cop. And Matt's in the back seat. And they're going towards Matt's house. Meanwhile, at Matt's house and Joey's house, you have the guy walk into the living room with the mom, who instantly recognized him, right? Because she has seen him all over the telly all day. So she's like, oh my God. And he tells Joey to go sit beside her. So Joey goes and sits beside her and calms down. He's like, Mom, calm down. And the mom is like, what? So the guy's like, I'm not going to hurt you. I just know the boys have some money, and they told me that I could have an automobile because the dad's truck was in the garage, and I'm not going to hurt you. I'll be out of your hair. And then the guy looks at Joey and says, does your mom have a cell phone? And he goes, no, we don't have cell phones, mobiles. And he goes, well, take that phone right there and bring it with you because we wouldn't want her calling the police. So Joey gets up. He's like, it'll be okay, Mom. And grabs the phone and, unplugs it and takes it with him. And this was, pretty much one of the only really funny scenes in the movie because she looks at Joey like, are you on his side? Why are you? What? He murdered his wife and kids. What are you doing? You know, she couldn't believe that. She couldn't believe what was going on. And that was actually a funny. The expression on her face was just like, "You're on his side." Something is lost in translation here. What? Because she don't know anything about this guy being in the woods or them stealing or anything. So she's totally in the dark. So that was pretty funny. Um, so he ends up going out to the truck with Randy, and he ends up asking Randy. This is weird. You know, I just thought of this. Just sitting here thinking, I just thought of this. That was a weird relationship that he had with the boy in the 2015 movie too. They had a very weird relationship. What's up with Rainn Wilson and these weird relationships? I have to do some googling on him. But yeah, I just thought about it. But anyway, so they're out there at the truck, and Joey asks Randy to take him with him. This is a guy who murdered his wife and 8 and 10-year-old children, kids, whatever. And it's like Matt said had a couple of times, like, you got a crush on him? Are you in love with him or something? Yeah, it almost seems like it now. I mean, he's like asking him to take him with him. And this is a murderer who killed his family, even though he claims that there's more to it than that. There is no more to it than that. I mean, I don't care what your reasons are, yeah, for doing something like that. There is no, you know. But anyway, but yeah, it did make me think. You know, that's a very weird relationship that they've developed, and then it reminded me that's a very weird relationship between him and the boy, and the other little psychological. This is a psychological horror movie like The Boy. The same atmosphere, creeping dialogue and stuff. And yeah, he had a weird relationship with that little murderer too. And now the roles are reversed. So Rainn Wilson had a weird relationship with this boy who was a murderer, psycho. Now we have this movie where the boy is having a weird relationship with the murderer who is Rainn Wilson. So it's like the roles are reversed. That's kind of cool. Just thought of that. That's interesting. I'm a cinema nut. We get kind of excited about things like that when we have epiphanies. So he's asking Randy to take him with him. And Randy's like, I really don't, think I can do that, that wouldn't be a good idea. And the boy is like, if you don't take me with you, I will report everything to the police. And Randy's like, oh yeah. And I was like, see, this is some fucking, what's that, Woody Harrelson movie? Come on, I can't believe I can't think of that movie's name. Natural Born Killers, yeah. I'm like, what is this? Are we getting off into Natural Born Killers and in cold blood territory here now? What the fuck? So he's threatening Randy that if you don't take him with him, he'll alert the police and everything. So he's like, okay, do you want to take a ride with me? And I'm like, okay, we're getting really creepy now. You want to take a ride in my truck? It's like, okay, whatever. So they start heading out. They drive out the driveway, yeah? Meanwhile, that asshole Matt in the back seat of that cop car is coming this way. So they turn in the corner and they meet. So Joey in the truck, he's like, my brother Matt's in the back of that cop car. And they see, Matt sees the truck and is like, that's my dad's truck. What the fuck? So you're like, what the hell is fixing to happen now? So, he tells Joey, Randy tells Joey, he's like, it'll all be okay. He gets his gun. He's like, it'll all be okay. Just put your fingers in your ears and put your head down when the shooting starts. And I'm like, wow. This is pretty good. I like this shit. What's going down now? So the cop and them, they have no idea who's in the truck, right? It's the dude with a 5-state manhunt. They have no idea. This asshole in the back has just tried to bring them there to arrest his baby brother for breaking into a house is all they know. And so when Matt does see the truck and sees his brother in it, he also sees what he still thinks. Remember, he doesn't know anything about it. He still thinks it's Dave, the security guard from the hole, and he's like, "That's the guy from the hole." And the cop in the front seat is like, "Man, this dude ain't making a lick of sense." That's his exact words. This dude is not making a lick of sense. What man in a hole? So Randy has gotten out of the truck and is like walking towards the cops. The sheriff guy, he gets out of the car and starts walking towards them. So they're kind of like meeting up. And the cop is like, "Hey, yeah, man, can I ask you a couple questions?" And the guy is like, "What can I do for you, officer?" And boom, he shoots him. He just like whips it out, shoots him. So Matt freaks out. Joey didn't really freak out because he knew it was coming, yeah. The the lady cop, she jumps out and fires off a couple and misses. And Randy is like, "Do you really want to do this? There's kids around." And so Matt is in the back seat, of course, screaming, "Let me out of this car! Let me out of this car!" And Joey just walks right up there by Rainn. This is weird. He walks right up there by Randy and is standing there right beside him. And the woman is like, "I can't shoot with you standing there. You need to go back in the house." Then that made you think that's exactly why Joey is standing there, right? Yeah? Fucking hell. So she's like, "You need to get out of the yard, go back in the house." And the mom is watching from the window. And Randy tells Joey, "Yeah, that's a good idea. You need to go into the house." But he just won't leave him. So about that time, the lady cop, she gets distracted because this is a weird situation, yeah. And you've got this asshole Matt banging in the back seat trying to get out. So Randy like takes the opportunity to pop her one. So he pops her and puts her down. He goes around the truck, around the car, while Joey walks up to the car where Matt's in the seat screaming, "Open the door, Joey, open the door." And Joey's just like staring at him, smiling. And Randy stands over the lady cop and points the gun at her, and he's like, "I'm not worth it." Because she's reaching for her gun. And he's like, "I'm not worth it. Am I worth it? Am I worth you dying for right now at this moment? I'm not worth it." So she kind of gets that message, and she stops struggling. And he picks up her gun and takes it, and then he's like, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I'm going to need your keys." And next thing you see Randy and Joey and Matt walking through the forest with Matt in front and them holding, both of them, holding guns on Matt. And they take him and throw him down in the hole. Okay. So Randy is then getting Joey to like humiliate the brother. Because he's seen what's going on. He knows the score. So he's getting him to like, scream at him that he's the boss now. He's the king of the hill. He's not going to put up with any of his shit no more. Blah, 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 which is definitely deserved. And of course, Matt screaming at him, "I hate you. Let me get out of this hole. I'll fucking kill you." All kind of shit like that. And then, I didn't really understand this part, but Randy then tells Joey he's got to go down in the hole. And he's like, "After what you just made me do, he'll kill me down there." And he's like, well, you need to stand up for yourself. I think he wanted him to kill him or something. I really don't know. I don't know exactly why he would do that. But Joey refuses to leave him, refuses to go, and so he pushes him, and he goes down there. Now, meanwhile, Matt is screaming, yeah, send him down to me, send him down to me. And I'm like, fucking psycho. I'm telling you, should have killed that boy a long time ago. So when he hits the bottom, Matt beats him unconscious. I'm not kidding. Unconscious. Like, no longer conscious. And Randy just starts walking away. And when he gets to the edge of the forest, you hear someone say, stop right there. And you look up, and it's the mom. And she's got a fucking rifle from hell, beat it on him. And he's like, oh, I forgot about you. And she's got this rifle pointed at him, and she's like, I've, you know, drop your gun. And so he threw the one gun. She said, is that all of them? Because remember, she saw him pick up that other gun. So he throws the other one down too, and she's like, I know about violent men like you. Um, and he's like, yeah, I bet you do. And then she proceeds to tell him, yeah, I know violent men like you, violent men who want to beat on people like I was beat on, who want to drink, who want to carry on. And then I started going, oh no, is she fixing to say what I think she's fixing to say? And then she's like, and then I got lung cancer now from smoke, from his damn cigarette smoke, and getting beat up, and my kids getting beat up, and stuff like that. And then I'm like, she killed her husband. That's their dad who was shot by messing with the wrong person. So she's like, she admits that she's the one who murdered her husband. So I kind of thought maybe they'll make a deal like him and Joey did, yeah. But instead, Randy's like, is there any way that I'm going to get out of this? I can get out of this? She's like, I'm afraid not, I want my sons. And he's like, they're in the hole. You can hear them. She's like, take me to him. I was like, I don't have to take you to him. Listen. So they got real quiet, and you could hear them screaming where Matt was beating him into unconsciousness. So she was like, well, there is one way. I can call the cops. And he was like, no, never mind. That will just prolong it. And she's like, okay. So she shot him dead. She shot him once. Then when he tried to sit back up, she shot him again to make sure he was dead. So she understood what he said when he meant, nah, never mind. That'll just prolong it. So he's dead now. And she goes out there. Now, meanwhile, and this is, I think, in my opinion, because, I don't know. I'd have to talk to the director if you ever see this, like you would. But if you ever see this, director, you can, let me know. But, if you were trying to get some kind of redemptive, this is the only negative I have about the movie. If you were trying to get some positive, redemptive quality to Matt, it didn't, and you don't. Now, if you weren't, then that's cool. But, after she killed Randy and she was going to the hole where her sons were, and while she was making that trek, Matt was like he had an epiphany because I thought Joey was dead. Um, and he starts trying to wake him up, and he can't get up. He can't wake up. He is like knocked the fuck out. Seriously. And it's like he softens and he starts crying, like legitimately really crying, and he's like rubbing him and rubbing his face and trying to shake him and begging his forgiveness, and I'm so sorry, and I was just trying to take care of everybody, but I don't know how, and stuff like that. And I'm like, 5 minutes at the end of the movie is not enough. because for a fucking hour and 40 minutes or however long this movie was, you have made that dude the most disgusting, hated, worthless piece of shit garbage that I've ever seen in my life. And 5 minutes of crying after he's beaten Joey unconscious is not going to get any redemptive ticks from me. Okay? Sorry. But then again, you might not have not have been trying to do that. You may have wanted me to roll my eyes. That may have been your purpose. If you had some other purpose besides me going, bullshit, kill him anyway, it didn't work. You can't do that. Okay? You can't do that. Now, you can spend 30 minutes of a movie redeeming someone, but you can't spend 5 minutes at the end of a movie and redeem an hour and 45 minutes of absolute assholishness. It just don't work that way. In movie land. Not with us anyway, man. It ain't gonna work. But, like I said, he may not have been attempting to do that. I don't know. But if he was, it didn't work. So, and he did. He was crying. It may not even have been 5 minutes. It may have been like 4, 3.5 or 4 minutes as she got to the edge of the hole where he was crying and carrying on and trying to wake his brother up. And finally he did start coughing and gagging. I mean, God, he beat him so badly. He did start coughing and gagging, and he didn't speak, though. I think he was so fucked up he couldn't speak, but his eyes were open, and he was, like, holding on to his brother. So I think he's going to be all right. But still, 3.5 minutes of him crying and bawling and going, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Well, did you mean to do that the other 50 times we saw you do that in this movie? We saw you do that 50 times during this movie. Didn't just a few minutes ago, look at me, I'm getting all hot and bothered. Didn't 15 minutes ago, didn't we just watch your skanky ass walk up to a fucking dibble and try to get them to come and take your fucking little brother to jail for something you planned? Didn't we watch you tear the house up and hit your sick mom dying with fucking lung cancer? Or was I hallucinating? Okay? Didn't we see you, like, beat him with a rake? Didn't we see you try to spear him with it as he ran away? Didn't we see you beat the shit out of him in the parking lot at that little party that you funded? Didn't we see you knocking his ass nearly out on the couch? So, 3.5 minutes of crying? Fuck you. No. No. The mom should have lifted Joey up out that hole, buried that other motherfucker in there. That still was that. And your 3 minutes of crying, Mr. Director, didn't do shit for me. Okay? You don't make up for that by crying after you nearly beat that boy to death. And that's the end of that. So as you can see, this was a really great movie. Really, really great movie. Making sure I took it out the Blu-ray. But Don't Tell a Soul, 2020, Rainn Wilson. Fantastic little movie. The twists and turns there at the end. I literally, like, sat with me mouth open when, even though I had that little thing on the paper that said, I feel something weird about Dave. Still, when she was sitting there at the news and that, and that thing came up and said the 5-state manhunt for this guy who had murdered his wife and kids, and they showed a picture of Dave, I was like, wow. Okay, that was good. So the twists and turns in this movie are really, really good. And like I said, I tell the whole story. That's true. This is a spoiler channel. I'm here to discuss and turn a movie into a story time. Thank Bailey Sarian for that. If you don't know who that is, that's where I got the idea for this channel from. What I turned this channel into was from Bailey Sarian. She turns a crime story into a story, or she turns historic events into a story. I like to take a movie and I turn it into a campfire story. to talk about and discuss and tell my good points. And you can't tell a story without the ending. I mean, very frequently, or very infrequently, I might have one that I will refuse to give it to you and make you go watch it yourself. But yeah, I'm telling a story. It's story time, campfire story. Scary stories to tell in the dark. So that's what we're doing. And I really love this movie. Uh, Indie horror movie, psychological thriller, whatever you want to call it. Don't tell a soul. Yes. So that's it for this video. Love you, miss you, bye bye, and the usual taglines. You're a very special person. I want you all to know that, and I do really mean it because I'm a freak from the dark side of hell, and I have always been very proud of that, and I want you to be proud of whatever kind of freak you are. Because we're not freaks, we're just unique individuals. And I know the world can be rough on us, so no matter what anybody's doing to you or saying to you, or the world's doing or saying to you, you are a very special person, and you are the only one of you. Live it, love it, show it. And I'll see you in the next video. Love you, miss you, bye. Stay scary. And keep screaming when appropriate. I didn't know what I was doing with my hands. Live long and prosper. Or fuck off and die, whichever one you think you deserve.